Good morning. I'm Rogério Tilio from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro.
Good morning. I'm Paula Szundy. I'm Rogério's colleagues, also from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. And in our presentation, we are going to talk about literacies related to race, gender, and intersectionalities in English textbooks in Brazil. So in this presentation, we are going to follow this trajectory. First of all, we are going to point some legal milestones related to textbooks legislation in Brazil, and also the central theoretical framework. Afterwards, we are going to focus on race and gender issues and its intersectionalities in textbooks approved by the National Program of Textbooks in 2020, called PNLD 2020. And afterwards, Rogério is going to discuss some literacy practices related to race, gender, and intersectionalities legitimized in one of the textbooks approved in PNLD 2020. Okay. So the legal milestones are three. We have three bills here which establishes the promotion of Afro-Brazilian and indigenous culture and history, as well as the human rights as a compulsory part of Brazilian basic education. And these three bills establishes that textbooks approved in the scope of the National Program of Textbooks, PNLD, should be free of any stereotype related to race, gender, sexuality, and also promote compulsorily human rights. Some problems are that the criteria in PNLD are very often unclear concerning how textbooks should approach ethnic, racial, and human rights issues. And therefore, authors responsive attitudes to these issues and the approach they privilege can be countless, okay? As we will see in the textbook Rogério will analyze. And a consequence is that racial issues and their intersectionalities related to gender, sexuality, and social class, for example, are very often insufficiently or superficially approached in textbooks. So the central theoretical framework concerning literacies we are referring to in this presentation refer to the concept of language ideologies, ideological literacies, and queer studies and critical perspectives. So these are the frameworks that orient our perceptions towards the work with race, gender, and their intersectionalities in textbooks. We understand language ideologies as beliefs or feelings about language as used in their social worlds. Representations, whether explicit or implicit, that construe the intersection of language and human beings in a social world. And also the responsive attitudes about language construed by people in the social world. We refer to strict conception concerning autonomous and ideological literacies, understand that autonomous models of literacies, they are also ideological, but they claim not to be ideological, but they are always ideological because there is no escape from ideology. While autonomous models understand literacies as neutral and technical abilities, the ideological model is worried with reconfiguring the local and situated practices. Autonomous models of literacies are worried with transmission and replicability of literacies, while the ideological model will focus on ideological issues and the power relations. In an ideological model of literacy, we should always submit literacy events and practices to the following questions. What's the power relationship between participants? What are the resources they use? The semiotic resources they use? Where are people going if they take on one literacy rather than another literacy? And another question that I would add here is why some literacy practices are legitimized while others are not. Now Rogério will follow the presentation.
Okay. We are going to discuss the concept of critical based on a queer perspective. So, first of all, according to queer studies, queer is everything that society's discourse transforms into abnormal, strange, abject, or subaltern. So, under a queer perspective, being critical means to challenge students to interrogate what is normal. Being critical also means to focus on an education for social justice, assuming a compromise with change. At the same time, it challenges the foundations on which naturalizations are constructed. And finally, a critical perspective also aims to promote change. Here we bring some eliminatory criteria from the PNLD 2020. So these are criteria that if the textbook don't follow, the book should be eliminated. So books must promote Afro-descendants' image positively, taking into consideration their participation in different works, profession, power space, and valuing their visibility and social representativeness. Textbooks must promote Afro-Brazilian, Quilombola, indigenous, and country peoples' culture and history positively, valuing their values, traditions, organizations, knowledge, and forms of social participation. And textbooks must promote women's image positively, taking into consideration their participation in different works, professions, and power spaces, valuing their visibility and social representativeness, with a special attention to a non-violence agenda against women. These are some criteria. There are several others, but we have selected these ones because they are related to race and gender. Well, the book we decided to analyze is this one, and the reason why we chose it is that it was the #1 best-selling. It was the book which sold the most. And in this book, we chose this unit called We Are All Human, because this was the only unit in the whole series. Notice that the series has 4 books, okay? And this is the only unit in the 4 books which was claimed to deal with these issues of race, gender, and differences. The teacher's guide says that. So we can see from the title, right? We are all human. So on the one hand, they tend to show that everyone is the same, we are all equal, but at the same time, when we say we are all human, we are saying that every human is the same. So what about the differences of gender, race, sexuality? They kind of disappear. So we have to be careful about that. And in the warming up section, we have something like, it says in Portuguese, everyone is different. In your opinion, differences among people make life more interesting. Why? At the same time, the activity says that everyone is different. In the title of the unit, they say that everybody is the same. We are all human. And then I see some problems when they start. In your opinion, the differences among people make life more interesting. So first of all, this is not a question about opinion. This is a question of differences. Differences must be taken seriously. It's not a question of having an opinion or not. So no, in my opinion, it doesn't make life more interesting. By the way, what does it mean to make life more interesting? So here there is a space for prejudice, for example. And there is some kind of banalization of differences. Like, differences are not to make life more interesting. It's also interesting to look at the image, because in this image we have lots of people, but the idea we have is that these people are like juxtaposed. They are not together. They are just lots of people put together in the same photograph, reinforcing the idea of diversity. You have diverse people here, but what about their differences? Their differences are not problematized. So you have here blonde people, black people, people from the Arabian world, but these differences are not problematized anywhere in the unit. They are just here to say, look, the book brings different people. And you can see that the objective of this unit is basically linguistic, because the authors put in the box at the top of the page, talk about the human body and describe people, to review the present simple, to use adverbs of frequency, vocabulary related to the body. So actually, this is not to discuss differences. This is just to, this thing of talking about the body seems to be an excuse to talk about people and humanity and differences, as we are going to see on the next page. Okay. Another point we would like to point is that you have a section, reading for critical thinking. So critical thinking is not underlying the whole unit. Critical thinking is a special moment for that. By the way, it makes sense when we talk about, if we refer to the objective of the unit, which is linguistic. So the moment here, the fact that you isolate a moment for critical thinking shows that this is not part of the process. And again, the questions about critical thinking are about a quiz, because the students have previously answered a quiz. So do you believe a quiz is a good instrument, a good tool to evaluate if a person knows about the functioning of the human body? You know, what kind of question is that? Is this problematizing about people, about differences? Have you ever answered another quiz in English or in Portuguese? So, you know, the critical thinking does not even problematize bodies, gendered bodies, racialized bodies. Here it's problematizing a quiz. Next page. Then on this page, we have some skeleton some skeletons, and then there is an activity in which you have to say which skeleton refers to an Asian, an elderly, an indigenous, a man, an obese person, a skinny person, and a woman. And since all the skeletons are the same, and you know the title is underneath we are all the same, the message of this activity is, you know, all the answers apply to all the skeletons because we are all the same. So again, there is an erasure of bodies, of differences, of racialized bodies, gendered and sexualized bodies. Next. And this is the unit that is supposed to deal with differences. Then we have writing. Then in the writing section, people have to work in groups and write a quiz on the human body to challenge your friends. You can ask questions about the brain, the muscles, the bones, the respiratory system. So again, the body is not a social body. A body is the biological body. And again, the quiz thing. I think we should go back some pages to have a look at the example, at the quiz they have here on the unit. So the quiz says, for example, question 1, which of the following is not one of the 5 sentences? Then, how many teeth do kids have? Approximately what percentage of your body is water? You see, a quiz about the human body which just focuses on the biological part. And it is this quiz that serves as a model for the quiz students are expected to produce. So no social problematizations, only biological data. Now let's go back to the page we were. Here we have a section called Looking Ahead. It's the last section of the unit. So first of all, let's look at the title, Looking Ahead. It is that section that we have already finished the unit, okay? We have covered the main points. Now let's look ahead. Let's go beyond. And so the authors ask students to read the quotes and talk to a classmate to discuss the questions. And you have, always remember that you are absolutely unique, just like everyone else. And be proud of who you are. Everyone is perfect in their own way. So look at the first question. Do you agree with the quotes above? Why? When I ask if the student agrees, I'm opening the chance that students do not agree. So students can think that, no, people are not the same. In the bad sense, because here the idea is that everybody is the same in the sense that no one is better than the other. But students don't have to agree with that. So do you agree? Then, in your opinion, what makes people unique? You know, I think this is an extremely dangerous question, because if I'm asking in your opinion, I have to accept whatever students say. So what we see is a disastrous attempt to say that no one is better than the other, but erasing social differences. So some findings we have about this unit, which in theory is the unit which was there to talk about people and humanity and differences and prejudice. So although the teacher's guide says that talking about the objective of the unit is to talk about people and humanity, clearly the analysis of the unit shows that talking about people and humanity is not a focus. I wouldn't say, I would say it's not that it's not the focus, it's not a focus. The primary focus is clearly on structure, grammar, vocabulary. There is a shallow thematic contextualization as an excuse to teach structure. So this idea of we are all human and people are the same, and having images of people from different races, these seem to be excuses to teach structures. Bodies are homogenized as isolated organs and skeletons. They don't even belong to real people. Race, gender, and intersectionalities are just illustrative and not problematized. People do not even seem to be real. When they are not skeletons and organs, they are pictures which are clearly from a picture bank. There is the banalization of the treatment of differences. In your opinion, what do you think which differences make life more interesting? So everything goes to the side of the opinion, of the personal taste, not the social problematization. And the title, We Are All Human, and the message, We Are All Human, throughout the unit, shows an attempt to homogenization, shows an erasure of differences, banalization of the idea of what's inside that counts to its literal meaning, because here they talk about organs, the human body organs. Everybody is the same as human body, but everybody is not the same as social beings, and this is not there. The differences are disguised under the idea of humanity, which is a very dangerous discourse, like people have no race, no gender, people are all human. And there is this myth of democratic diversity. So people are diverse and everybody lives happily together. Okay. Then we have our references, and thank you very much.
Thank you.